It is 6:30 about a.m. Monday morning, and I'm doing this video. I need to adjust it. I'm in not too good a shape. I froze and roasted myself to death in this house. You're not familiar with this house, but I shouldn't even be doing this video. But I need to get on YouTube, and I need to get on GoFundMe or Kickstarter. I didn't get any sleep last night. Roasted to death. I sleep in a covered bed that doesn't work real well, and it's freezing all the way everywhere I am. And the reason I'm doing this video thing right now is I draw like Leonardo Davinci, sort of look like him a little bit, quite a bit. In his later years. And I'm now counting down the days till the day I die, I guess. Death is all I have to look forward to as far as timing goes. I realize through my work that the revelations thing that I've been working on is coming true. This is more or less a depressing thought. I've been using the Isaacson book, and I'll say that, but I've been using another book too as well that preceded Isaacson, and of course the Da Vinci Code was before most of them. And all the people that worked on Leonardo goes back to the first biographers, which were approximately, they began 30 years after he died. And of course Salio was working on his work, trying to capitalize on it. Salio was killed 5 years later. People that work with Leonardo do not come to a good end. And why are we celebrating? It does not appear that he was such a hugely good person. In fact, it appears that he was quite selfish like Newton, who also may have been gay. There's nothing wrong with being gay, mind you, but if you're a self-centered person, then you sort of die like you lived, alone and sad and not satisfied that you figured out what it was you wanted to figure out. In Leonardo's case, he was working on something that's on his board. Triangulation. Up until the day he died. The question is why? Why was he working on triangulation? And why, if it is true, did he wait 500 years to come back? There's a pretty good answer for that, and that's because he strongly felt that there was a revelation, there was an end time, and I think he felt that man could avoid that. He obviously knew that man would get to the point. Perhaps he saw the atom bomb like Limburg might have. Limburg feared what man would do, and Limburg was right. In my end times, it's not the atom bomb, it's the fracking that is the most important thing. Why would three great geniuses team up to code paintings so that I would understand what the paintings meant? Especially since most of them are the Madonna and things like that, and really don't make sense because they don't follow the story. They seem to follow a story that is viable and follows the light all the way down the road. I was going to do a short video, and I was going to go over to the Worcester Museum and do this, because behind me you can see I just have stuff that's stacked up for my makeshift tent. I'm living like a homeless person in the middle of my house. I came to this valley with a good amount of money, and I could have left this house with a good amount of money. In the journey there are some things that are more valuable than money, and one of them is knowledge. I wanted to spend my last days, perhaps up and through this next year, working as a Leonardo impersonator and going to, well, I wanted to actually go and stay in Bill Gates' house and be his guest, just like Leonardo did the King of England. I would like to meet Isaacson, actually, and share some stuff that I know of Leonardo. If I am Leonardo, I'd be good at it. And if I am Leonardo, of course I'd be good at it. We would expect that. We do not believe in much that is out there. I'm ridiculed for what I do and who I am, which is too bad. We say we believe in God, we say we believe in other things, but yet we don't believe in anything that we don't see or can't prove, or can't make money off of. Last night I did a marvelous painting, and I started out because of a sculpture that I saw at my friend's house, and it was the same sculpture I did as a kid, and he was doing a thumb stone, and I saw it on his desk, and I had created a thumb rubbing thing also that was going to be cast in brass. It's in wax. It's probably here. One of the few things that made it here. There's this parallel universe, and obviously he and I are in the same thing. Except for tearing down buildings. He was a pastor, and I am not yet. I've created this whole world that I'm in, and people go, well, you created such a horrible place for yourself, and why would you do that? And why do you care about Leonardo? He's dead. Well, why are we celebrating 500 years of him being dead? We're the ones that lived those years. What's the big deal? Why should we have a festival? We have festivals to saints, and in all practicality, he would have been a saint. Except the Catholic Church just didn't canonize him. They canonized Father Sarah, and I don't know about that. And that's part of my California past. I think what I'm trying to say here is I would like to be a Leonardo impersonator. And I'd like to go to Italy, and I'd like to keep drawing, and I think I have a lot to draw. I'm working on something, a math book of special math. It's based on Pythagoras math and math before Pythagoras. Leonardo did art for festivals. So I was going to do a large canvas and paint it up for the background for this. I think now, and I was going to go to Worcester where they actually have an abbey room that's there. This is a real old one that was actually there in Leonardo's time. But I think I'm just going to do this simple video and maybe tag onto it some of this drawing. This thing, I don't know where it came from, but I was drawing the sculpture my friend had, and the one that I could remember that was made of multiple faces. Unfortunately, that was possibly lost with much of my stuff that was taken by a man that was much like Salia and decided to help himself to what was mine. It's interesting that that would happen to Leonardo. Salia would end up with his paintings, and it's clear through the notebooks that he refers to Salia as not a very good character. But any man that would sleep with another man, now wait, I'm not going to get in trouble here, but would have probably wanted to be paid off, especially if he was sold as an indentured servant of 10 years old. Leonardo did not have a happy life. He was a bastard child, and I use that word literally, and he was never accepted by his father. I think throughout his life he just never settled on being loved or cared about, or, he had to buy everything that he was. And his father seems to have had a reputation of liking young women, so it's not a good role model. And he lived in a time of decadence. He lived in a time when the Medicis ruled the world and they were moneylenders. And they had power over everybody. They became the most powerful people. They became the popes. They ruled the popes. They ruled the kings. They built castles everywhere. And so did my family. The northern Italian side of my family is connected to the Medicis and to some other saints, and so they lived on an island, one of the most beautiful islands that there is, Isabella, which still exists, and I wouldn't mind going and seeing it. And I wouldn't mind going to Italy and seeing things I've never seen. I've never been to Italy, and I've never been to the Smithsonian. Many museums and stuff would benefit from what I do, and if I put on a one-man show. But because my eyes are getting burned in this house, and it's frozen all the time now, and I can't get it unfrozen, I'm stuck here. I was stuck here in this house for a distinct reason, and I know this video is going to go for at least 15 minutes, so I'll try to make it short. What Leonardo sought in the last 15 years of his death was a mathematical system. The mathematical system he knew existed. He may have been looking for genetics. I was talking to my friend yesterday, and he was saying now they've proven that young babies and kids that can play like Mozart or Beethoven at 5 years old, to pass down the genetics, have also recorded code of things that were learned. Now, I am not necessarily of that bent. I am of the bent that if the whales stored this knowledge up, then they can pulse into the brain. And if a child has a big enough brain when they're born, then they can perceive it. And if they also have a big enough brain where they get the electronic math that I'm working on, then certainly it doesn't matter the age as much, because when they're young, they're not bothered with other things, so they can perceive and receive messages. And if their brain is like mine, huge big brain that looks like a chessboard, it's a very bad brain to have, I'll tell you, in this world, because nothing is simple. Nothing goes from point A to point B. It's all circular motion. We go through the whole process of the possibilities and never settle on anything exact. That's why Leonardo never finished any of his work. I am focusing in on Leonardo right now. For one thing, the 500-year thing is going to be here in less than 20 days. So, and I would like to carry that through. I would like to go to Italy, and I would like to go see the Great Pyramids of Giza. I'd like to go see Stonehenge and go to Paris and see where Limburg flew in. Only because those are all part of the journey, what I'm working on. Nobody will know it. I've written 160 books. And only one is published with my art. And if you want to see what my art looks like, it's called Halley's Comet. It's on Amazon. In that book I write as a woman, strangely enough, being that I am probably Leonardo. To write as a woman is a strange thing. But it's not, because souls are interchangeable and the bodies being interchangeable. And there I wrote as a person that is pretty much like Leonardo. It starts out with a not so good life and runs down those things as not so good life. But then that person has a choice to make when sometime they become quite rich. But they are a prisoner of their own life, which I am now, a prisoner of my life. Which is sad, because I'm coming into a situation where my daughter may finally be getting married. I may have a son-in-law that I can relate to, and I'm sorry, I'm not putting down my other son-in-law. He's a nice guy, but I don't live in a computer world, and I am familiar with the binary code because I am putting it together in my mathematics. My brain may be based on a binary code. I'm getting off on a tangent. What I want to do is I want to be a Leonardo impersonator. Not the gay side, I'm sorry to say. I like women. And I have always liked women. And I've been married and still am married. Coming up in June, it would have been 40 years, which is a pretty good long time. I mean, Moses walked around in the desert for 40 years. Actually, he was married for quite a long time. I'm thinking maybe almost 40 years. He buried her in the desert. And then they buried him in not the promised land, but in the desert. So I am much like Moses too. All of them were into the sciences of the mystic sciences, and I am. I wanted to show you a couple of things, and on this maybe I'll tag on videos of me drawing so that you understand. But this came up last night, and I was up to 12 o'clock from about 8 o'clock. So this is a 4 hours worth of drawing. And my drawing of the sculptor turned into an octopus up at the top of here. And it's a very cool octopus. It's like mycin? Is that it? Minoans? It looks like a Greek vase. And they did put octopuses on there, and that is in my brain. I have seen it. But then I put on the other side here a face. Well, it's above the fish. The fish is the Revelations. It also stands for the portal when it's open of the Madonnas. And then water markings, and then other things. And this is cool. I mean, this is one of the coolest things I've ever done. It's about 3 different kinds of art, and it's based on, you can't see it in this drawing real well, but I drew the lines. And down here, over here, and on the door, you can't see it because I'm not holding it up, but I drew the right angle, and then I drew the 60-degree triangulation, which is Leonardo's, he figured it out, by the way, and I figured it out. You see, I knew what I had to do. I knew that in the art, there is a perspective, and I knew that the art was a mathematical perspective that I could learn. I saw nature as a young man, and I studied it, and then I put it in my drawings. The first drawing I ever did was a landscape. I was walking out, and I found the cave, and I found the whales, and even though I was a young man doing art, other art, it was truly a drawing from me, my soul. I love nature. I saw nature. I saw the great fossilized whale, and whales became something immensely amazing. A large fish of that size. It was when I went back to Rome or Milan that I stopped again near Florence in the mountains. I stopped my entourage of people and all my possessions, 500 pounds of possessions. I stopped the whole train and said, wait, we must look here, for I want fossils for where I'm going. And truly we sat, and we walked through the big rocks that were there. The octopus is a favorite of mine. It has 8 arms. It's an 8-sided figure, like the octagon. 8 sides makes the perfect compass, like the compass man I have drawn in my past life. You will note that unlike Vitruvius, I have 2 more positions that I have added to the 4 that exist. Well, actually in a star it's 4 more positions. I have tipped this perfect 90 degrees down here, up here, up here. I have tipped it 45 degrees. I've moved it 45 degrees, and that makes the X, and the X is where the mark is for the universe. I have sought the portals. I know they exist. The angels, they come and go, but where from? And how do they get here from heaven? I have seen the angels, and I have seen one come through an opening of light. And so I wondered, does the light all come from heaven? Is it what we know of good versus evil? I'm not sure. There are many things I'm not sure of. But one thing I know, it is all based on the right triangle. It is all creation, it is all art. And now, I draw the triangle first, and then I draw the picture. If only I had known this 30 years ago, I would have been a master artist. I consider myself a master artist anyway. And then back then I was a beautiful person. I could have drawn myself much more beautiful in body, because the body represents the same triangles as the landscape that I did 50 years ago or so. As I now reach my 67th year or so. Actually, I am 66, but I'm looking at my 67th year. That would be in April. It is still December, and I'm in the winter of my discontent. I'm cold, and my body is cold, and I'm not sure that I have lived a good life. I have not reached my goal. My goal is to know mankind and his place in the universe. For I have been here many years and painted many things and seen many things. Amazing things. I have been working on the great festival, doing the paintings for King Francis, my friend. He comes to me and we go to his library and I teach him what I have learned. I teach many young men what I have learned. I fear they have learned little. Nobody so far has reached the master status. I have befriended and fathered them, and some maybe more. But as I reach 67, I become the number 13. An Egyptian number, and a Greek number, and the number of the apostles in Christ. I have labored long on these paintings and pictures, of which I just showed you my latest. I still work on Mona Lisa. I will draw her forever, paint her forever. And I left to you. Anybody that meets me, I will have left. By the way, I'm talking in the mirror. So you will never know what I have to say. This day I have 3 mirrors set up. Some days I have 4, some days I have 1. Depends on what perspective I want to live in that day. If we are at war and plague, then I wish to use 1 mirror. Shadow and light of what I see is flat, as the earth is no longer flat, as we now know. That old Christopher Colombo, a good Italian guy. He proved that you could sail around and around and around and around. Foolish man, we already knew. Zeno had proved that. The Crusaders had gone to the new land. Pythagoras had walked the land, and his people had walked the land. They taught the people there to build pyramids. All this was before my time, but I get to put it into my time. Some people are afraid of me. I'm afraid of me. It is a sad moment. To sink to this level, I cannot do my painting anymore. My right hand has betrayed me, and my left is sore. My eyes see not what they did. I fear like some of the bodies of the old men. A lens has gone over my eyes and blurred them out. Perhaps someday we will fix that, and I will not suffer as I do. Perhaps someday we will find a way for the soul to live forever. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I know we will exist another 500 years. And I want to be there for the great festival. I want to show my art again. I want to show the beauty I perceive. I'm not so sure. From what I see, I'm not so sure that we know what art is in the future. I want to prepare a book. It is my goal, my last work on this earth, is to prepare a book that shows the mathematics of the art, so that you can draw like Leonardo the lion, the best pictures in the world. You can be a master like me. I have taught many and told many stories of the past. I bring the Greeks and the famous Italian poets to the people. I play music so that they can dance and be happy and merry. But in my soul, I yearn for peace and art. So I will draw again. And maybe, my friend, I will not meet you in the mirror. But 500 years from now, I will meet you in person. Lucky you. Thou be who you are, but I be who I am. I grow weary and tired and retire to my covered bed. Perhaps I will sleep and miss the king today. I no longer know when I'm awake or when I'm asleep, for my dreams have taken me many places, back to the vineyard that I love. But I have a vineyard here in France, where they are said to grow the most perfect grape for the wine. I no longer take the wine. I have opened up the body of those who lay in the street and have died of the cold, for they knew not what they did because of the great wine. I heard stories tell of Alexander the Great lost many men because he imbibed of the wine, and that some great men saw writing on the wall because they had partaken of the wine. I too have, but I wonder now, does that interfere with who I am? I want to know everything of who I am, not just to freeze and look out at the beauty out there and look at some other man's castle. I wanted my own castle. I drew many castles and churches for people, but they were never my home. I must say, I'm not sure I ever had a home. My father has lived long, and yet never admitted he was my father, nor made it public who I was, Davinci. I was born of the Davinci seed. I should have had the name in respect. My father was a notary. It's unexcusable. I cannot forgive him to my dying day. Perhaps someday I will rest in peace. I will walk through the light that I have seen, where the Madonna first appeared to me. The Virgin Mother, the Virgin Purity, and the water of baptism which I have taken. I have seen heaven like Dante. I have lived hell like Dante perceived. He went with Virgil, a true Italian, and he himself a Florentine. Florence had the fossilized whale. I collected fossils, shells that have been preserved for many thousands of years. Will I be a fossil as well? Not sure. Rocks surround me. They've always surrounded me. I've been a great collector since I was a boy, when I had a pretty body that is no more. So I'm not sure where to go from here. But this you will know. I look in the mirror, and the old young man I once was, I see now as old. That vision I've seen before, and so I painted it, the young man who is no more and was before. I seek not approval anymore. I've exceeded my father 10 times or more, for he did nothing. He did get me jobs. He did get me places to live. He did put me with an artist, of whom I learned much. But I tire of painting layer after layer. I tire of never perfecting my work. I tire of all of it. And now it will come to naught. People I loved and adored have shunned me, and I've found more. But it gives me no great solace. My paintings are there in the corner. 3 that I brought with me for long periods of time. And I've worked on them, but not recently. 15 years or so ago. Or maybe 10, I'm not sure. Time flies by at great speed. And take heed. You too will grow old, Mr. Mere, and cracked, as I imagine. The earth will be cracked, and the great quakes I have seen will parch the earth till it be moon I see. For me, I hope not in my time, for I love nature and green. And water will disappear in time of fire and fear. Which comes first and worst, to drown or to burn in hell? I freeze in hell. I burn in hell. It is not a good revelation that I bring, but neither was it 2,000 years ago when it was told. Who told such a story to bring fear and plague and pestilence to the land? It was the Master himself. And I'll let you decide. But one prophet came and went. As Isaiah once said, the time will come, and Ezekiel told of the great fire and the wheels, and the angels that came through the portals of light. Those I have seen. But I am not a prophet, and I'm not a Messiah. I'm a beautiful person. And even though the mirror says otherwise, I live from the inside. And I want to share that with you. So no matter what you think of me in the future, and there are some that think of me of the worst, I have been brought up on charges that I do not like. But I am smarter than the foolish people of the law. And I knew some that were of a side that could get anything they wanted. I have done what few men have done. And though I come to a place where I must rest, my life was the best and the worst. For I am Leonardo the Lion, and in the stars I am nothing more, but behold, I will be nothing less. So forgive me and give me a beautiful stone. I want 3 masses when I pass. I want 30 smaller masses. This will be 33, my number, of the time that I awake and do my best work, especially on the bodies of the dead. I learn what is the blood, the source of water of life. I want 60 people to carry candles for me and lights. 6 will be rich people, and 60 will be poor people, and the rich people will carry placards. And I will let them put what they want on them, but there must be a tree on one. There must be a cross on one. But the cross is the staff of St. John the Baptist. Perhaps I will make it to St. John's days and Juan the Bautista, the great celebration in June. I set that as my goal for my passing. I was born in the spring, when the days became the same size as the night. Will I pass as such? I'm not sure. I am Leonardo, but there are some things I cannot control. I reflect. I am a messenger of the gods. Perhaps there are many, like the Greeks believed. I have seen the Greeks walking the mountain. I have seen the hawk lady, the falcon lady. She is dressed in a blue dress. She has long raven hair. She is a most beauty. She certainly would have been my wife had I desired such. But she is mysterious. She appears as the falcon and the hawk. Beautiful red hawk, a hunter hawk of birds and prey. I have run across the hunter hawk and those trained to kill. I develop weapons and castles of destruction and war, but I have no inner stomach for it. I'm not sure who I am. Perhaps I should have been in a monastery. The abbeys are great places. I have painted pictures there. I've had my last supper there. But their life is not mine. They are locked away from nature. They only have small parts of nature to see until they get out. I could not stand those walls closed in on me. Even here in this room, in this chateau, my room is large, and my bed is large, and I have a fireplace and people to attend me. I look out on the great vineyards and the castle of the king, or his home. I know that I can take the tunnel and go visit him, or he me. I have everything I should have wanted. I have young men surrounded me. I have a maid person to cook for me, a woman. This person's been cooking for me for a while and knows my taste. My stomach is not the same. The bag that I've dissected in people that contains the food is not working so great. The doctor has been to see me, but to no avail. The leeches and things do not work. They fail. And I give blood when I have little. I once dumped the blood of a body into vials and pottery. 7 of them it filled. It says so in the Bible, 7 candles. 7 pottery vessels of blood it filled. But there was water in the body as well, in the blood. I fear someday there will be no more water, there will be no more blood. I wish you to have a good day. May not be possible, some people say. But for me, I move on. Well, I just realized that the door is open to let fresh air in as I roasted to death in my bed. And you hear the traffic noise in the background. I was just closing the door. Now you won't hear the sound as much. Sound technician can maybe take that out if they ever use it for anything. I did what I wanted to do today. I still seek to be a Leonardo impersonator, whether you like what I do or not. When Joseph Jefferson played Rip Van Winkle, came here to Boston, and Longfellow saw him and met him. Longfellow, I think, liked the performance, as Washington Irving was Longfellow's sort of mentor. He liked Washington Irving, who he met, as I understand it. There are just tons of pieces of history that I've accomplished or brought into my brain. I'm 63 years old, 4 years less than Leonardo. I have the brain of Leonardo, and some are going to say, oh, but he was a genius. No, he wasn't really. He was just a man of great observation. And yes, he had a computative mind. The computer can do what he did in 2 minutes. It took him a lifetime. A genius is the sum of the whole. A genius is just a person who is an observer. And an observer that makes notations, so he's a scribe. And then if he takes those observations and makes more that other men have not made, or puts them together in a manner that will help mankind, then we call him a genius. But in Leonardo's time, he may have been a scholar and brilliant, but he was not called a genius. And certainly nobody used any of his designs, or few, until 150 years later. And like other people, most of the writings were done 30 or 40 years afterwards. And even Salia, who thought he was somebody, could not draw very well, and could not master the last book that Leonardo wanted, was the perspective of art. Oh, I'm getting cold. I must go back to bed. I've already toasted my head. I'm listening to some sort of machine. I guess it's a snowplow. I'm not going to get out today. I have to. I have to meet a man about the videos. I am sorry this place killed me. I'm sorry this place destroyed me. The winter did. But the timing is such that it should be, I guess. Maybe they're spreading salt. The roads are really super icy. It's a bad time for me. Should have been a good time, but I should have been out of this house a long time ago. This house killed me, but it also made me who I am. It allowed me to be Leonardo da Vinci. And some would say, well, why would anybody want to be Leonardo da Vinci? I don't want to be Leonardo da Vinci, I just am. And perhaps I'm not. Perhaps I'm just merely me. Been an artist from birth. I was set on a course that was not determined by me. I don't have a bag to put this in. Trash bag is missing. I was set on a course that I could not get out of, no matter how hard I tried. This house was the only one we could buy. My castle in Monterey was the only one I could build. My childhood was the only childhood I could live. Now, because we have fought for freedom, and we believe our God represents freedom, we think that man doesn't follow destiny. In my journey, there seems to be absolute proof. My life was designed out there. Whether there's another dimension that I'm following along in a way, I can't help who I am. I'm going to say, of course you can. Everybody can change their destiny. Well, live my life and then say that. I was geared and designed to be, say, Leonardo impersonator, and to finish his work, and I did finish his work. Like him, I had friends that I used. I used Dürer, and I used Raphael's math. And then I figured out what it all was. What the math was used for. So in a way, when we look at Newton, who took all these people's maths and work, but Newton could do algebra and calculus, whereas Leonardo could not get beyond his own logic. Geniuses seek truth and use facts and observations to do their work. Algebra is a distortion of numbers. It serves only one purpose. It serves advanced math used for technology. Even though Leonardo created technology, he had no place for it in his life. If it wasn't mechanical and couldn't be done, achieved, then he left it to the imagination, but didn't want to do the numbers on it. He would figure out a logical way to do the numbers on it. Left-handed people can't think algebraically. They must use shapes to determine numbers. Now you're going to say that, well, numbers are just shapes, letters are just shapes. Numbers can't be recognizable when they're set up in different powers. Leonardo knew there was a universe. Unlike Pythagoras, he could probably put numbers to it. But what he didn't do is just put numbers to make sums of totals of things that just didn't exist on Earth. There was no need. Got a hair hanging out there. You wouldn't be using a cell phone. But if he saw dreams of the future as I have, then he would have known that those advanced numbers would have been necessary. As I have, he would have developed a system that would have worked for everything. The last thing he drew in his journal, or his notebooks, was right-angle triangulation with squares and rectangles in it, which would lead to the diamonds and the hexagons, which would lead to the circles. But if he was trying to square the circle with the same volume or whatever, which I don't believe he was, I believe he was trying to put the circle into the universe. And as such, he couldn't do that. As such, he couldn't do that. Because like Achilles trying to catch the turtle, he would always, in the circular world, the full motion world, a body turning around in space, no matter how many times you reduce that body, no matter, you keep making it small. The bigger the body, the planet, whatever, and there were 7 of them then that were known. Put them in this great festival. And they're surrounded by stars. No matter how you do that, you cannot measure the universe as perfect. You can if you convert the circle to a square. Like those lanterns at the festival the other day. There was thousands of them. Well, 300 of them or so. And in the park, you saw them in the space with the space around them. This is the way Leonardo put the planets. But say that you were trying to design a universe, and you had these big dot planets to work with. If I were filling, let's say, the space of this book, say this thing here, and I stuck those little stick-on dots all over it. This is Ben's book of electricity. But say that I used my yogurt cup, which I was just eating, and I stuck these on this book. Now say this book was as big as this board that I'm working on. I could work with the math. I might know pi, I might know the circumference, I might know the total square area of the circle. But if I'm trying to do a universe and a concept of heaven, then basically what I'd be doing is, I guess I gotta put the hat back on. I'm still freezing, it's ruining my nose. There. Now I look like Mountain Man. Basically what I'd be doing is I'd be sticking these circles on the background of space, and I may even include them with things, but even if I bring them together side by side to fill the space, and say I reduce them in size, figuring that I can get more on there, I have basically a T-shaped or a plus-shaped space between each one, all over, everywhere. So basically I can't give you calculations for the universe that way. Now, I'm supposing if I was Leonardo, I would say, well, okay, there's that waste volume left, and obviously if you draw a circle in a square of the same size, you can determine the mass of the square, but it still leaves the remaining factors of whatever the percentage is. So you get away from a square, you use a hexagon, well, that's better, they fit together. But then this hexagon has to have the same mass as the circle, and you could put a hexagon in a circle, you're still going to have outside pieces. Then you start multiplying that concept of the polyhedron, and you get a 12-sided thing. Oh, I'm getting less space as waste, and I'm doing triangular calculations. This is Leonardo's mind for you. So you will keep doing that infinitely. You will get a fraction, little teeny bit, maybe even minuscule that you can't see, but you're going to have waste in that circle. And the problem is once you get away from the hexagon, they don't fit together anymore. So you have to figure the circles into the hexagon and yet the hexagon into the outer circle. You have to bring the inner waist together with the outer waist to create an odd out hexagon. Like say you have 4 around, the fifth one in the middle. The fifth one in the middle represents the waist. The x-axis could be I may not know what I'm talking about, but I think I do. Once I learned how he used his right-angled triangles, and once I found out that it was the ABC system that I was using to measure the whole universe, and to do mapping and cartography, which he was doing, especially with Dürer, he wasn't just mapping the world, he was mapping the heavens as well. They were using star math to guide them to wherever they wanted to go. It's very strange. Very strange indeed. And I would learn it. And now I want to share it. I would love to go to universities, put on lectures and shows, and teach people how to draw art the way Leonardo did. I don't know if I'm going to be so lucky to get out of this house alive and intact. I'm not totally intact, but at least I went the distance. Whoa, I just came in and blurred. No, it came in and blurred again. Whoa, motion is blurring on the camera. Maybe it's because of the heat and the air. Camera's been on too long. Just like me. Maybe the cold air is blurring the lens. Like, I don't want to ruin this camera. I already killed Wilson. Well, sort of. I overused it. Well, it's still Monday, and I'm still not doing well. I may do a drawing today, I don't know. It's crappy outside, that's for sure, but I have to go out at some point. And maybe I can share these videos. I want funding. I want some good person to come in with just a small amount of money compared to the wealth these people have, and be my benefactor in the end, be my king of France, and hopefully he wasn't Leonardo's lover. Oh, really blur focusing in. It's taking a while. It's slowed down because it's cold. Oh, blur. Now it's just totally blurred. Yeah, I better turn it off. Must be getting too cold. Not my eyes, it's the camera lens. That's what's happening to me being in this cold conditions. Yeah, the camera's hot. Gonna shut it down.